The royal princess said, "Human, if you win this battle, you win me." The arena held its breath. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the human starship New Horizon, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. This was at the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. The Zephyrian Empire had agreed to meet with Earth's representatives to discuss trade and peaceful relations. "Sir, they're sending us docking instructions," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from her station. "Base 17, Level 9. Marcus nodded, trying to calm his racing heart. He had been chosen for this mission because of his skill in languages and diplomacy. The weight of representing all of humanity pressed on his shoulders. Everything had to go perfectly. The Zephyrian space station was incredible. It stretched for miles in every direction, made of some kind of crystal material that sparkled with inner light. Ships from dozens of different alien species moved in and out of docking bays. Marcus had never seen anything so beautiful or terrifying. "Remember, everyone," Marcus said to his small team of 5 diplomats and scientists. "We follow their customs exactly. No sudden movements, no raised voices. We're guests here." The docking bay was huge, easily large enough to hold 20 ships the size of the New Horizon. As the humans stepped off their ship, they saw their first Zephyrians up close. The aliens were tall, much taller than humans, standing about 8 feet high. Their skin looked like living crystal, shifting colors from blue to purple to silver. They had 4 arms and moved with grace that seemed impossible for such large beings. "Welcome, small ones," said the lead Zephyrian in perfect English. His voice was deep and musical. "I am Ambassador Korveth. We have been curious about your species." Marcus stepped forward and bowed as he had practiced. "Thank you for receiving us, Ambassador. I'm Captain Marcus Chen, representing Earth and humanity. We come in peace, hoping to learn from your great civilization." Ambassador Korveth studied Marcus with large, gem-like eyes. "Interesting. You are much smaller than we expected. Come, the Royal Council awaits." The journey through the space station was amazing. The halls were wide and tall, decorated with flowing designs that seemed to move and change. Alien beings of many different species walked the corridors. Some floated, others slithered, and a few moved in ways that hurt to look at. Marcus tried to take in everything while staying calm and professional. They entered a massive chamber with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. At the far end sat the Royal Council on thrones made of the same crystal material as the station. The center throne was the largest, and on it sat the Emperor himself, a magnificent Zephyrian whose crystal skin shifted through all colors of the rainbow. "Your Imperial Majesty," Marcus said, bowing deeply, "I bring greetings from Earth and all humanity." The Emperor's voice boomed through the chamber. "Rise, human. We are curious about your species. You are the first to reach us from your distant star. Tell us, what makes you worthy of trade with the Zephyrian Empire?" This was the moment Marcus had prepared for. He began to speak about humanity's achievements, their art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries. He talked about human dreams of peace and exploration among the stars. The Zephyrian Council listened quietly, their crystal faces showing no emotion. When Marcus finished, Emperor Zephys leaned forward on his throne. "Impressive words, small human. But we have heard such speeches before. What proof do you offer of your worth?" Marcus had expected this question. He signaled to his team, and they brought forward gifts from Earth, examples of human art, music recordings, and samples of Earth's finest foods and materials. The Zephyrians examined each item with interest. "These are adequate," the Emperor said after a long pause. "But the Empire requires more than pretty objects. We must know if your species has strength." "Strength, Your Majesty?" Marcus asked, confused. "Indeed, in the Empire, worth is proven through trial. Your words speak of peace, but peace without strength is meaningless. How do we know you are not simply weak creatures seeking protection?" Marcus felt his heart sink. This was not going as planned. "Your Majesty, humanity has survived many challenges. We have explored dangerous worlds and overcome great obstacles." Words again. the Emperor said, waving a crystal hand dismissively. The Empire has ancient traditions. If you truly wish our respect and trade, you must prove your worth in the traditional way. Before Marcus could ask what that meant, a voice rang out from beside the Emperor's throne. Father, perhaps we should test them more directly. Marcus looked up to see a female Ephraim step forward from behind the throne. She was smaller than the others, but moved with deadly grace. Her crystal skin was a beautiful shade of violet, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence. This had to be Princess Lyrale, the Emperor's daughter and heir to the throne. My daughter speaks wisdom, the Emperor said. Princess Lyrale, what do you suggest? The princess looked directly at Marcus, studying him like a predator studies prey. These humans speak of strength and achievement. Let them prove it in the arena of trials. Let their champion face ours in single combat. The great chamber fell silent. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Combat? This was supposed to be a peaceful diplomatic mission. An excellent idea, the Emperor said, his voice filled with approval. Human, do you accept this challenge? Marcus looked at his small team. They were diplomats and scientists, not warriors. None of them were trained for combat, especially not against alien champions who were probably twice their size and strength. Your Majesty, Marcus said carefully, we came here as peaceful ambassadors. We have no warriors with us. Then choose from among yourselves, the princess said, stepping closer. Her voice was smooth and dangerous. Unless you admit that humanity is too weak for the Empire's attention, Marcus realized they were trapped. If he refused, they would be seen as cowardly, and the mission would fail. If he accepted, whoever fought would probably die. But there was no choice. The future of human-Zephyrian relations depended on this moment. I accept the challenge, Marcus said, his voice steady despite his fear. I will be humanity's champion. The princess smiled, showing teeth like crystal daggers. Excellent. But to make this interesting, I will add something to the stakes. She stepped up to Marcus until she was looking down at him from her great height. The entire chamber held its breath. Human, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. If you win this battle, you win me. I will bind myself to you in the sacred ritual of eternal partnership. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. Even the Emperor looked surprised by his daughter's declaration. Marcus stared up at the alien princess, wondering if he had heard correctly. The arena held its breath, waiting for his response to this impossible challenge. Marcus sat in the cold metal cell beneath the grand arena, his head in his hands. The heavy door had locked behind him 3 hours ago, and the reality of his situation was finally sinking in. In 3 days, he would face the Empire's greatest champion in a fight to the death. He was just a diplomat. He had never been trained for combat like this. The cell was simple but clean. A hard bed, a small table, and a waste facility. Through the narrow window, he could see part of the arena floor far below. Even from here, he could hear the roars of the crowd as other matches took place. Think, Marcus, he whispered to himself. There has to be a way out of this. A guard brought him food, some kind of purple meat and strange fruits that actually tasted good. The guard, a short alien with green scales, seemed friendly enough. First time in the arena, human? The guard asked in broken English. Yes, and hopefully the last, Marcus replied. The guard laughed. You have spirit? That is good. You will need it against Vorthik. Vorthik, your opponent. He is the Empire's greatest gladiator. 9 feet tall, strong as a battleship, never been defeated. His claws can cut through starship metal. The guard shook his head sadly. Nice knowing you, human. After the guard left, Marcus felt his stomach drop. A 9-foot-tall undefeated champion with metal-cutting claws. What had he gotten himself into? The first day passed slowly. Marcus did push-ups and stretches to stay in shape, but he knew physical fitness would not be enough. He needed to learn about his enemy. Through his small window, he watched the arena matches, studying how the different fighters moved and fought. The Zephyrian gladiators were impressive. They were strong and fast, using brute force to overwhelm their opponents. But Marcus noticed something: they all fought the same way, straightforward attacks. relying on their natural advantages. There was no creativity, no unexpected moves. On the second day, Marcus had an unexpected visitor. The cell door opened, and Princess Lyrale entered alone. She had to duck slightly to fit through the doorway meant for smaller species. "Your Highness," Marcus said, standing quickly and bowing. "Sit down, human," she said, settling onto the floor across from him. Her crystal skin was a soft blue color today. "I came to see the curiosity before its destruction." Marcus sat back, down, studying her face. "Why did you make that challenge, the partnership offer?" Princess Lyrale was quiet for a moment. "You would not understand. Your species is too young. Try me." She looked at him with those strange, beautiful eyes. "Tell me, human, what do you know of our history?" "Only what we learned from your transmissions. The Zephyrian Empire is thousands of years old. You have conquered many worlds and united many species under your rule." "Conquered, yes. United, perhaps. But we have grown stagnant." She seemed to choose her words carefully. "We are strong, but strength alone is not enough anymore. We face challenges that cannot be solved by crushing them." Marcus leaned forward, interested. "What kind of challenges?" "That is not your concern. You will be dead in 2 days." But her tone was not cruel, it was almost sad. "Then why are you here?" The princess stood and walked to the small window. "I have been studying your species since we first detected your signals. Your history is fascinating. You are weak compared to most galactic species. Yet you have achieved remarkable things, such as you fight in ways others do not. When faced with superior enemies, you do not simply charge forward. You think, you adapt, you find new solutions." She turned back to him. "Your military history is full of small forces defeating much larger ones through cleverness." Marcus felt a spark of hope. "You studied human military history extensively. David and Goliath, Alexander's tactics, the Battle of Thermopylae, your world war to resistance fighters. Humans have a gift for turning weakness into strength. Then, you know we might have a chance." Princess Lyrale's crystal skin shifted to a darker purple. "I know that conventional wisdom says you will die quickly, but conventional wisdom has been wrong about humans before." She moved toward the door, then stopped. "Tell me, Captain Chen, why did you accept the challenge? You could have refused and taken your chances with a different kind of death." Marcus thought for a moment. "Because my crew and my people were counting on me. Sometimes you have to take impossible risks for the right reasons." The princess nodded slowly. "Interesting. Vorthik has never fought for anything but personal glory. That may be important." "Wait," Marcus called as she reached the door. "Why are you telling me this? Why help me understand?" She paused in the doorway. "Perhaps because I believe the Empire needs to learn new ways of thinking, and perhaps because I made that challenge for reasons you do not yet understand." After she left, Marcus spent hours thinking about their conversation. The princess was more than she appeared. Her challenge had not been impulsive, it was calculated. But calculated for what purpose? On the third day, Marcus got his first look at Vorthik. The champion was brought to the arena floor for a practice session, and Marcus watched from his window in horror. The alien was massive, easily 9 feet tall, and built like a living tank. His skin was dark gray and looked tough as armor. His forearms each ended in razor-sharp claws that gleamed like metal. Vorthik moved through practice drills, destroying training dummies with casual swipes of his claws. His speed was terrifying for something so large. Marcus watched him tear through obstacles that would stop a normal person cold. But as he watched, Marcus began to notice patterns. Vorthik always attacked the same way, straight forward, relying on his strength and claws. He never used defensive moves or tried to outthink his opponents. He did not need to. His physical advantages had always been enough. "He's like a very dangerous hammer," Marcus muttered to himself. "Effective, but predictable." That evening, the guard brought Marcus his final meal. "Tomorrow is the big day, human. The whole station will be watching. Tickets sold out in minutes." "How many people will be there?" "Over 100,000, plus millions watching on broadcast across the Empire. This is the most interest the arena has seen in years." Everyone wants to see if the little human can last more than 30 seconds after the guard left. Marcus lay on his hard bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would face impossible odds in front of a crowd that expected him to die quickly. But he was beginning to form a plan, a crazy, desperate plan that just might work. The princess had been right about one thing. Humans had always found ways to turn weakness into strength. Tomorrow, he would find out if that was enough to survive the arena and win an alien princess who seemed to have secrets of her own. The roar of 100,000 voices hit Marcus like a physical wall. As he stepped onto the arena floor, the grand arena was even more massive than he had imagined. Rising up in all directions were seats filled with aliens from across the galaxy. Zephyrians made up most of the crowd, their crystal skin creating a rainbow of colors that shifted and sparkled in the arena lights. Marcus wore simple combat gear, a basic armor vest, arm guards, and sturdy boots. In his hands, he carried a standard energy sword and a small shield. The weapons felt heavy and unfamiliar. He was no warrior, and everyone in the arena knew it. The arena floor itself was like a small world. It stretched for several hundred yards. In each direction, filled with different environments, there were rocky hills, metal structures, energy barriers that crackled with power, and deep pits that dropped into darkness. This was not just a simple fighting ring, it was a complex battlefield, designed to test every skill a warrior might possess. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species, boomed the announcer's voice. Welcome to the most anticipated match in arena history. In the red corner, representing the mighty Zephyrian Empire, the undefeated champion Vorthik the Unbreakable. The crowd exploded with cheers as Vorthik emerged from the opposite entrance, up close. He was even more terrifying than Marcus had imagined. 9 feet of pure muscle and armor-like skin, moving with surprising grace for something so massive. His forearms flexed, showing off claws that gleamed like polished steel. He raised his arms to the crowd, and they roared their approval. And in the blue corner, the announcer continued, representing the unknown species called humanity, Marcus Chen. Small. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered, curious about this strange new species. Others laughed at Marcus's size compared to Vorthik. A few sections seemed to be cheering for him. But Marcus suspected they were just hoping for an entertaining death. High above in the royal viewing box, Marcus could see Princess Lyrali sitting next to the Emperor. Even from this distance, he could feel her watching him intently. Fighters, prepare for combat. The announcer called. Vorthik immediately began moving toward Marcus, his massive strides eating up the distance between them. The crowd expected this to be over quickly. Most gladiator matches in the arena lasted only minutes when there was such a size difference. But Marcus did something unexpected. Instead of moving forward to meet Vorthik's charge, he turned and ran. The crowd gasped. Some booed, thinking the human was showing cowardice. But Marcus was not running away, he was running with purpose. He sprinted toward a cluster of metal structures near the center of the arena. Vorthik thundering behind him, the human appears to be retreating. The announcer called out, confusion in his voice. Is this some kind of strategy or simple fear? Marcus reached the metal structures and quickly climbed onto a tall platform. Vorthik arrived moments later and began climbing after him, his claws finding easy purchase on the metal. But as the massive gladiator climbed, Marcus jumped to another platform, then another. Keeping just out of reach, coward, Vorthik roared, his voice echoing across the arena. Fight me properly. But Marcus was not being cowardly, he was being smart. Each jump, each movement was calculated. He was learning how Vorthik moved, how fast he could change direction, how he reacted to different situations. Most importantly, he was making the big gladiator angry. Angry fighters make mistakes. After several minutes of this cat and mouse game, Vorthik was breathing hard and growing frustrated. The crowd was getting restless too, wanting to see actual combat. Marcus knew he could not keep running forever. It was time for the next part of his plan. He jumped down from the platforms and ran toward a section of the arena filled with energy barriers. These barriers crackled with power and could cause serious damage if touched directly. Most fighters avoided this area because it was dangerous and unpredictable. Vorthik followed, determined to corner the elusive human. "Enough games," he shouted. "Face me like a warrior." Marcus stopped running and turned to face his massive opponent. Vorthik smiled, thinking he finally had the human trapped. He charged forward, all four arms spread wide to prevent any escape. But Marcus had studied the energy barriers carefully during his time in the cell. He knew their patterns, when they activated and deactivated. At the last possible moment, he dove to the side and rolled behind one of the barrier generators. Vorthik's charge carried him straight into an energy barrier. The power field crackled around his massive form, sending bolts of electricity through his body. He roared in pain and anger, stumbling backward. First blood to the human. The announcer called out, excitement building in his voice. An unexpected, tactical move. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were watching with growing fascination as this small human used the arena itself as a weapon. This was not the kind of fighting they were used to seeing. Marcus did not waste time celebrating. While Vorthik was still stunned from the energy barrier, he grabbed a piece of metal debris and hurled it at another barrier generator. The impact caused a chain reaction, sending energy bolts across several barriers and creating a web of crackling. Power Vorthik recovered quickly, but now he was more cautious. The human had hurt him, something that rarely happened in the arena. He began moving more carefully, watching for more traps. "Clever little creature," Vorthik growled. "But tricks will not save you forever." Marcus backed away, his mind racing. The energy barrier trick had worked once, but Vorthik would not fall for it again. He needed a new strategy. The two fighters circled each other warily. Marcus kept his distance, using his speed and agility to stay away from those deadly claws. Vorthik was patient now, looking for an opening to finish the fight with one decisive attack. The crowd was completely absorbed in the battle. What had started as an expected execution had become a real contest. In the royal box, Princess Lyrale leaned forward in her seat, her crystal skin shifting to an intense violet color. "This human fights like no gladiator I have ever seen," the emperor observed. "That is precisely the point, father," the princess replied quietly. Back on the arena floor, Marcus spotted his next opportunity. Near the rocky section of the arena was a large boulder balanced precariously on a narrow ledge. If he could somehow topple it, he began moving toward the rocky area, Vorthik following carefully. The big gladiator had learned to be suspicious of the human's movements, but Marcus was counting on that caution. As they moved through the rocky terrain, Marcus suddenly stumbled and fell, crying out as if injured. Vorthik's eyes lit up finally. The human had made a mistake. The massive gladiator charged forward, thinking victory was within reach, but as he approached, Marcus rolled aside and struck the support holding up the balanced boulder with his energy sword. The boulder crashed down, missing Vorthik by inches and sending up a cloud of dust and rock. Fragments. The crowd gasped at the near miss. Vorthik stood in the settling dust, realizing he had almost been crushed for the first time in his career. He felt something unfamiliar uncertainty. Marcus rose to his feet, breathing hard but smiling grimly. Round one had gone to the human, but the real battle was just beginning. The battle had been raging for 30 minutes, and Marcus was beginning to feel the strain. His breathing was heavy, sweat poured down his face, and his legs felt like lead weights. Across the arena floor, Vorthik looked barely tired. The massive gladiator's superior stamina was starting to show. "Getting tired, little human," Vorthik taunted. "Flexing is for powerful arms. Your tricks are amusing, but they cannot last forever." Marcus wiped sweat from his eyes and tried to think. He had managed to avoid Vorthik's attacks and even land a few hits of his own, but he had not done any real damage. The gladiator's armor-like skin was too tough, and his size advantage was overwhelming. Worse, Marcus was running out of arena tricks to use. The crowd sensed the change in momentum. What had started as fascination with the human's unusual tactics was shifting back toward expectation of his defeat. In the royal viewing box, Emperor Zephys leaned back in his throne. "The human has fought better than expected," the emperor said to his daughter. "But the outcome is inevitable. Vorthik has never lost, and he will not lose today. Princess Lyrale did not respond. Her violet eyes remained fixed on Marcus, watching every move he made. Her crystal skin had darkened to a deep purple, sign of intense concentration among her people. Back on the arena floor, Vorthik was growing more confident. He had figured out most of Marcus's tricks and was no longer falling for the traps and diversions. He began pressing his attack more aggressively, forcing Marcus to give ground. Enough games. Vorthik roared, swinging all four arms in a devastating combination attack. Time to end this. Marcus tried to dodge, but his tired legs were not fast enough. One of Vorthik's claws caught him across the chest, tearing through his armor and sending him flying backward. He hit the ground hard and rolled several times before coming to rest near one of the arena's energy conduits. The crowd erupted in cheers. Finally, the real fight was beginning. Marcus struggled to his feet, feeling warm blood running down his chest. The wound was not deep, but it served as a painful reminder of how deadly Vorthik's claws were. One solid hit would end the fight permanently. First, real blood goes to Vorthik. The announcer called out, "The human is wounded and tiring fast." Vorthik advanced slowly, savoring his advantage. "You fought well for such a small creature," he said, almost respectfully. "But this is where it ends." Marcus backed away, his mind racing. He needed something, anything that could turn the tide. As he retreated, his eyes fell on the energy conduit behind him. It was one of the power sources that fed the arena's various systems. If it was damaged, but using it would be incredibly dangerous. If his plan failed, he would be killed instantly. If it succeeded, he might still be killed. It was a desperate gamble. Vorthik was only 20 feet away now, moving in for the final attack. Marcus made his decision. He deliberately stumbled and fell backward, crying out in apparent pain. To the crowd and to Vorthik, it looked like the human had finally collapsed from exhaustion and his wounds. "Pathetic," Vorthik muttered, but there was disappointment in his voice. He had hoped for a better ending to the fight. The massive gladiator approached Marcus's still form, raising his claws for the ceremonial final strike that would end the match. The crowd held its breath, cameras focused on what they thought would be the moment of the human's death. Vorthik stood over Marcus and lifted all four arms high above his head. "You fought with honor, human," he said formally. "Die knowing that you earned the respect of Vorthik the Unbreakable." The claws began to descend toward Marcus's chest. The crowd leaned forward in anticipation, but at the last possible second, Marcus exploded into motion. He had not been defeated, he had been waiting. All those hours of watching Vorthik fight, studying his patterns and habits, had taught Marcus one crucial thing. Vorthik always delivered his final strikes the same way, always from the same position, always with the same timing. Marcus rolled sideways just as the claws reached him, grabbing Vorthik's lowest arm and using the gladiator's own momentum against him. It was a move from human martial arts, adapted for an opponent with four arms instead of two. Vorthik, committed to his downward strike and not expecting resistance, could not stop his forward motion. Marcus twisted and pulled, redirecting all of Vorthik's considerable weight and power straight into the energy conduit behind. Then the massive gladiator crashed into the conduit with tremendous force. Sparks flew as the power system overloaded, and electricity arced across Vorthik's body. He roared in pain and surprise as energy coursed through him, his muscles spasming uncontrollably. The explosion that followed shook the entire arena. Emergency systems activated, and protective barriers sprang up around the crowd. When the smoke and light cleared, Vorthik lay on the ground, his dark skin blackened and smoking. He was alive, but stunned and barely conscious. The arena fell completely silent. 100,000 spectators sat in shocked disbelief. The undefeated champion had been brought down by a creature a third his size. Marcus struggled to his feet, swaying slightly from exhaustion. His chest wound was still bleeding, and his body ached all over him. But he was alive, and Vorthik was not getting up. Impossible. The announcer finally managed to say, "Vorthik is down. The human has actually done it." But Marcus was not finished. as Vorthik began to stir, trying to push himself up on shaking arms. Marcus did something that shocked the crowd even more than his victory. He walked over to his fallen opponent and extended his hand. "It's over," Marcus said quietly. "You fought. With great skill and honor, I offer you the chance to yield." Vorthik looked up at the small human standing over him. In all his years as a gladiator, no opponent had ever offered him mercy. Defeat meant death. That was the way of the arena. "Why?" Vorthik asked, his voice weak but puzzled. "You have won. Take your victory." "Because," Marcus said, his hand still extended. "Sometimes showing mercy is stronger than showing force. You are a great warrior. The Empire should not lose such skill." Because of one defeat, Vorthik stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then, the crowd waited in absolute silence. Finally, the massive gladiator reached up and grasped Marcus's hand. "I yield," Vorthik said, his voice carrying clearly across the arena. "I yield to Marcus Chen of humanity." The arena erupted in chaos. Some spectators cheered wildly. Others sat in stunned silence, and many argued loudly about what they had just witnessed. In the royal box, Emperor Zephy's leaned forward with new interest. "Fascinating." The emperor said, "The human shows mercy to a defeated enemy. Most unusual." Princess Lyrale smiled for the first time since the match began. Her crystal skin had shifted to a warm golden color, the Zephyrian expression of deep satisfaction. "Not unusual for humans, father," she said quietly. "That is exactly what makes them special." Marcus helped Vorthik to his feet, supporting the larger being's weight. Together, they faced the crowd, victor and defeated standing side by side. The impossible had happened. The human had won. The grand arena slowly quieted as medical teams rushed onto the field to tend to both fighters. Marcus waved them away from himself, insisting they help Vorthik first. The big gladiator's injuries were more serious, though not life-threatening. As the medics worked, Vorthik kept looking at Marcus with wonder and confusion. "In 30 years of fighting," Vorthik said as a medic treated his burns, "no one has ever shown me mercy. Why did you spare me?" Marcus sat down heavily beside him, finally allowing a medic to clean his chest wound. "Because killing you would not have made me stronger. It would have made the galaxy weaker by losing a great warrior." Emperor Zephyr descended from the royal box to the arena floor, his crystal robes flowing behind him. Princess Lyrale followed, her face unreadable, but her eyes bright with satisfaction. The crowd remained standing, unsure what would happen next. Marcus Chen of humanity. The emperor said, his voice echoing across the arena, "You have achieved the impossible. You have defeated our greatest champion through skill, strategy, and honor. The Empire acknowledges your victory." Marcus struggled to his feet and bowed. "Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty." However, the Emperor continued, "My daughter made a very specific promise." Princess Lyrale stepped forward. The princess moved to stand beside her father, facing Marcus. The crowd held its breath once again. The eternal partnership was the most sacred bond in Zephyrian culture. Once made, it could never be broken. Marcus Chen, Princess Lyrale said formally, "I bound myself to this challenge with sacred words. If you won, I would become yours through the eternal partnership. Do you accept this bond?" Marcus looked into her violet eyes, searching for any sign of what she truly wanted. He had won her in combat, but he would not claim her like a prize if she did not wish it. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "I accept only if you choose this. Freely, victory in battle should not force you into a life you do not want." A murmur ran through the crowd. This was not how such ceremonies usually went. Normally, the victor would claim their prize immediately. Princess Lyrale smiled a real smile that transformed her entire face. "Then I choose freely. Marcus Chen, I choose the eternal partnership." The ceremony that followed was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Zephyrian priests chanted in ancient languages while crystal formations grew up from the arena floor, creating a natural altar. The princess and Marcus each placed their hands on a special crystal that glowed within her. "Light by the ancient laws of our people," the head priest intoned. Princess Lyrale and Marcus Chen are now bound in eternal partnership. They share not only their lives, but their responsibilities, their duties, and their power. As the crystal flared with brilliant light, Marcus felt something change inside him. It was not magic, but something deeper, a connection to the princess and through her, to the empire itself. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Marcus barely heard them. Princess Lyrale was looking at him with an expression he had not seen before: respect, gratitude, and something that might have been affection. Now, she said quietly so only he could hear, "We can discuss why I really made that challenge." Later that evening, in the royal chambers high above the arena, Princess Lyrale who insisted Marcus call her. Lyra explained everything. "The Empire is in trouble," she said, pacing before a large window that showed the stars beyond the station. "For the past year, our long-range scouts have detected something moving toward our space." From the void beyond the galaxy, Marcus sat at a crystal table, still trying to process everything that had happened. What kind of something? Ships? Thousands of them. The Devourers have returned. Devourers? Lyra's crystal skin darkened with worry. An ancient enemy. They came from the void between galaxies long ago, consuming entire worlds before vanishing back into the darkness. Our ancestors barely defeated them the first time, and that was when the Empire was much stronger. Marcus leaned forward, beginning to understand. And now they're coming back. Our military leaders believe we can defeat them the same way our ancestors did, through superior strength and traditional tactics. But I have studied the ancient records. The Devourers adapt, they learn. The same strategies will not work twice. So, you need new strategies. Exactly. Lyra stopped pacing and looked directly at him. I studied humanity. Because your species does something no other race in the galaxy does. Will you innovate under pressure? You find solutions that others miss. Marcus thought about his victory over Vorthik. You were testing that theory. Your performance in the arena proved what I suspected. Humans think differently. You see possibilities where others see only obstacles. She sat across from him, her eyes intense. The eternal partnership was not just about marriage, Marcus. It was about making you my co-ruler, giving you authority to help prepare our defenses. Co-ruler. Marcus nearly choked on his drink. I'm just a diplomat. You're the human who defeated Vorthik the Unbreakable through intelligence and mercy. You are exactly what the Empire needs. Lyra reached across the table and took his hand. Will you help us? Over the following weeks, Marcus threw himself into learning about Zephyrian military capabilities and the threat they faced. The Devourer fleet was still months away, but it was massive, larger than anything the current Empire could handle through conventional means. Marcus studied the ancient battle records and current defense plans. He met with generals, scientists, and engineers from across the Empire. Most importantly, he began training selected Zephyrian officers in human military tactics. Your people think directly, he explained to a group of commanders during one training session. You see an enemy, you attack it head-on. Humans learned long ago that the strongest enemy can be defeated if you attack their weaknesses instead of their strengths. The commanders were skeptical at first, but as Marcus demonstrated human concepts like guerrilla warfare, misdirection, and asymmetric tactics, they began to understand. These were completely new ideas to them. Princess Lyra, now his wife and partner in truth as well as ceremony, proved to be an eager student of human strategy. Together, they developed plans that combined Zephyrian strength with human cunning. The Devourers expect us to meet them in direct battle, Marcus explained to the Emperor during a war council. Instead, we hit their supply lines, disrupt their communications, and force them to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. Emperor Zephyr, who had initially been doubtful about his daughter's choice, was beginning to see the wisdom in it. And you believe this will work? I believe it gives us a chance, Marcus replied honestly. A much better chance than traditional tactics alone. 3 months after the arena battle, Marcus stood with Lyra on the command deck of the Imperial flagship, watching as the combined humans Zephyrian fleet prepared for battle. Earth had sent ships and advisors once they learned of the threat. Other alien races, inspired by the new alliance, had joined as well. Nervous? Lyra asked, her crystal skin shifting to a warm blue color. Marcus nodded, terrified, actually, but also hopeful. Why hopeful? He gestured at the mixed fleet before them, ships from dozens of different worlds, all working together with new tactics and strategies, because we're not fighting the way our enemies expect, and because humans have always done their best work when things seemed impossible. Lyra smiled and took his hand. Then let us show the galaxy what humans and Zephyrians can accomplish together. As the fleet moved toward the edge of the galaxy to meet the approaching Devourer Armada, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed. He had come to the Empire as a simple diplomat seeking trade agreements. Now he was a co-ruler, married to an alien princess, and helping to plan the defense of galactic civilization itself. It was not the mission he had expected, but it was exactly the mission humanity and he had been born for.